So I think one thing is very true for Milan games, and that is if there's an early kickoff for Milan, it is more than likely it'll be a blockbuster event, and this was nothing short of that. Milan go into this game with a 4-3-3 instead of a 4-2-3-1. And I feel like personally we looked a lot more balanced, especially with Reinders being more involved at this game, being a little bit deeper than in most recent games. But Parma's first goal was nothing that we haven't seen before this season from a Milan perspective. And I said it in the last video that if we can defend right and compact versus Parma, then we could limit their chance creation. Teo slips on it, and you can see how out of position he is on defense. And Conceicao takes that space and places it too far for Mike to reach. Teo and Leao both got subbed out in the 45th minute, which is a huge talking point, by the way, just simply by not playing good. Leao had a shot, but nothing really else was created. And Leao's had a good string of games in this most recent times, contributing to goals, assists, and whatnot. And you seen he was trying to create and get involved today, but something was just off today with Rafa. Teo, on the other hand, Teo has had a very tough period, and we don't know really how long it's going to continue. And he hasn't had a good game since that second half versus Inter in the Supercoppa, which it was more than 20 days ago. And Bartazaghi looked way more involved, doing literally things that Teo would do, just simple overlapping runs, crosses into the box. And you saw on that last goal that we scored that was chucked in, it was from Bartazaghi, but you saw Pulisic literally telling him to go around, make that overlapping run. It's, I think, just a matter of getting back to the basics with Teo Hernandez, because he's definitely a confidence player, and I think if he kind of gets 1 to 2 big game performances, then I think he would be getting back into form. And I always do a tip of the hat, and this one goes to Pavlovic. This guy was impeccable in this game. I feel like this was hands down Pavlovic's best game. Not that we've seen many of them, but I like what I'm seeing from Pavlovic much more than I like from Tomori. And yes, he made some minor mistakes here and there, but you can tell that there's a defender in there. And he has that aggression, which I feel like has been missing in this defensive back line. And at least one of our center backs, Gabi, is definitely a lot more timid, kind of a silent leader, but Pavlovic makes it known that he's there. And he's had 2 back-to-back pretty good performances, right? And in this game, he was getting forward for dangerous headers, breaking the lines by dribbling from deep, which was very surprising at times, and winning that penalty, and of course scoring that offsides goal, which I think was kind of a wake-up call for Milan to kind of get back into this game. So I wouldn't mind seeing Pavlovic start a lot more games with Gabbia, of course, from here on out. And then maybe you can kind of reevaluate once Thiaw comes back from injury, and then maybe you can kind of see where Tomori fits in there as well. But right now, since Pavlovic is hot right now, keep him in and let him cook. So Pavlovic, big up to you, tip up the hat. Pulisic bags his penalty and continues his run of penalty conversions to 100%. And it's really nice to see the confidence in Pulisic to take these penalties. But also as a fan, I most definitely have the trust in Pulisic to convert these chances. And I always think to those moments versus Fiorentina where if we just gave Pulisic those penalties, then I think Fonseca may still have his job. But we're talking about old news. A player that I really liked in this game was Yunus Musa. In this game, I feel like he offered a lot of energy in the midfield, and he's young. He still has some great qualities that I think we could bring out and that would suit this midfield. And with more opportunities, I think he could definitely flourish into something that is very special in my opinion. I feel like he offers good dribbling in tight spaces by breaking the lines to get forward. And you saw that in this game versus Parma. And he gets a lot of hate, Yunus Musa. And I'm not sure why, because he's still young enough to kind of mold him into something. But don't get it twisted. With all the, these great individual performances, I think there were a lot of times where the passing was so sloppy, giving away possession like it was nothing. And that's what led to the second Parma goal, was stuff like this. And what is easily preventable, but moments like this is what separates the good teams from the great teams. And moments like this is what differentiates champions from where Milan is at right now. You wouldn't see Inter making the mistakes. You wouldn't see Napoli making these mistakes. Atalanta, teams like this. And after that last Parma goal, at least for me, I thought there was no shot in hell Milan were coming back from this, let alone scoring two more goals in 6 minutes of extra time. It was also just quite literally because in the second half, we could not create. And it looked like this team wasn't even trying to get forward. All of our attacking threats were just so useless. And I always say this and I feel like a broken record. And Conceicao has even said this himself, that this team fails to be direct. And we saw exactly that. I'm over Morata. I'm over Tammy Abraham. I'm over Jovic. Just these mediocre guys that are just up top. I swear this is just giving Kalinic vibes. If y'all have been here since the long haul, Kalinic, man, was exactly how I see a Tammy Abraham, a Morata. And ironically, Morata wears the number 7 shirt. Same thing with Kalinic. But for that matter, week in and week out, these guys just offer nothing. And this team is crying for a striker to just be involved, kind of get a header on. We saw Pavlovic was getting all these headers and being a threat aerially. Why isn't Morata doing this? Why isn't Tammy Abraham doing this? The tallest player on the pitch. Why isn't he in the box? Our strikers aren't getting in the positions where they need to be. And also failure to build up through the middle, where when we actually woke up in this game and we wanted to play after that one offside goal we had from Pavlovic, we saw in that Reinders goal, that pass from Yunus Musa came from the inside in the middle. And I feel like if we can kind of utilize our midfielders and play through the middle and actually want to play and want to create, this is how Milan is going to play good football. And this is how we're going to get the best out of guys like Yunus Musa, who can make a pass like that. And we saw earlier this season how Fofana was making these passes in from behind from deep as well. So we have the quality to do so. These players just have to apply themselves. And of course, Reinders is going to finish that chance every day. Nice little ball from Musa to kind of get that ball off and into the feet of Reinders. And we saw Reinders play a little bit deeper, like how I mentioned earlier in the video. And in this game, he was playing in that 3-man midfield, and he looked a lot more comfortable and I think a little bit more confident than in most recent games, being able to link up play and kind of play with his teammates and be dangerous in and around the area. So big up Reinders. I thought he had actually a pretty good game in my opinion. But the hero who gets on the score sheet is Chukwueze, who's been in the news similarly to Pavlovic and Tomori, where he's kind of been linked with a move away. But he was the one that tapped the ball in after Pavlovic headed the ball towards goal. And I wasn't particularly impressed with Chukwueze, to be honest, because I thought he was kind of just a crossing merchant, and he's so predictable. Just guard the inside where he's always going to cut into, and that's what you know he's going to do. But losing the ball a lot, which I thought was very frustrating from a perspective where we're still trailing and we need to win the game. So some shaky moments from Chukwueze, but regardless of the fact is he's in the right time, he's in the right place to score. So I guess that's something to kind of take away from Chukwueze's game. But even though this goal was huge for us in terms of getting the 3 points, I don't think it changes the narrative, or I don't think it pushes the needle on Chukwueze getting sold either this January or most definitely this summer. But I think one thing is clear. When this team wants to play football, we're more than capable of creating chances and converting opportunities. So it just happens when it's crunch time and when it's late, that's when this team wants to play. And we've seen that this pattern in matches where Conceicao has won during his tenure here have been exactly the same situation. Where why does it have to be like this? I don't understand why this team kind of just wakes up out of nowhere and just, creates a chance, a goal scoring chance out of nothing. We saw versus Inter, obviously Leao was a huge catalyst in that game, but you saw how once Teo scored that one goal, okay, then it led to more of the attackers kind of getting more involved. Pulisic was a little bit more involved. Of course, he drew the penalty, and then, the rest is history. So it's really frustrating how this team can really turn a game on its head. And we saw it versus Parma. Just one goal motivates this team to keep going. And it was the offside goal. It wasn't even the Reinders goal. It was the offside goal that Pavlovic scored. So you've seen what this team is capable of. It's just a matter of the team itself believing in themselves to get that result. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, and it's the argument or the fight that happened between Conceicao and Calabria. So my understanding of the situation was that when Calabria got subbed off, he had a water bottle in his hand and he threw it in the direction of Sergio Conceicao. So then obviously Conceicao didn't like that. So after the game, the celebrations and whatnot, he goes over to Calabria and they exchange some words with the situation that I understand it is that Conceicao said to Calabria was that this is how you cross the ball, kind of indicating what Bartazaghi did to essentially get the pre-assist for the winner. So this is what Conceicao said to Calabria, and of course Calabria didn't like it at all, and they kind of had a little tussle, had to be separated. But Calabria in the post-match conference said that it was a high-intense situation and they squashed it. So as long as they squash it, and I feel like that's that, then I think there's nothing to be worried about. But when you kind of look at it, at that moment, you thought it was something kind of serious, because I think it's concerning how Conceicao was kind of doing this when we all criticized Fonseca for kind of throwing players under the bus and not really having the best man management, which I don't think Sergio is that type of manager. But I think when you kind of look at it, spade to spade, you can't really justify what Conceicao did and then criticize what Fonseca did. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing that we can take away out of this whole Conceicao versus Calabria situation. But let's talk about the league table. And what was really nice about this result was it felt like this actually went in our favor, right? Lazio, Juventus, and Bologna dropped points, and now we sit 3 points off of fifth place. So I think this match week was really big, because even though, I would have maybe liked a draw in that Lazio Fiorentina game, but someone was bound to drop points, and our next 3 games in the Serie A are huge. Of course, we still have that Champions League game that we play on Wednesday, but in the league, we have Inter, Empoli, and Hellas Verona. And what's really annoying about this Milan team is that they're just so unpredictable, because maybe we'll have a stinker game how we did versus Juventus, right? A 2-0 we got absolutely dominated. But then maybe against the Como, where we kind of get lucky, or the moment of brilliance from Leao. We're not really sure how these next 3 games are going to turn out. I think against Inter, I think we're going to lose, to be completely honest. I think Inter are kind of getting into that phase where they're hitting that form where they need to, and especially because they're in a title race as well. They beat Lecce 4-0, so I think that's obviously a huge win for them. And then Empoli and Hellas Verona, we've said it before, Milan struggle against these little teams. And if we can kind of channel that energy where we do in the last, 10 minutes of the game, then I feel like Milan is more than capable of winning these 2 games. But the fact of the matter is, this Milan team needs a kick in the ass to kind of keep going. I saw this funny tweet where it was like, Milan should start every game down 1-0 so they actually play football, and we actually have to go down 1-0 to actually start playing. So this team is more than capable of winning and producing good moments, but it's just about applying themselves to do so. I think that'll do it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and get involved in the comment section below. Do you guys like these kind of longer form videos? Do you like the shorter videos? Let me know in the comment section below. But also, let me know about Milan's chances in the league, 3 points off of 5th place. What do you guys think about our chances in the Champions League on Wednesday? Obviously against Inter in the Derby next week. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao ragazzi.